I get many calls a week from folks asking where they can have a short-term rental. And so I've made a previous video on the Front Range area, which you can check out on my channel, or I'll link to it at the end of this video. But this one is going to be on the foothills and where you can specifically have short-term rentals in the foothills. And more importantly, what are some of the top areas that I recommend if you're looking to purchase a short-term rental in the foothills. Now, this information it's sometimes hard to track down. You have to go to the individual cities and counties. And so this video is meant to kind of give you a top line or a head start on research that I've already done. Check the date of this video, however, because this information can change and you want to make sure that you're getting the most recent content. In fact, if you want the most recent information around short-term rentals in the foothills and or the Front Range, feel free to reach out to me directly via my website, mglunk.com. I've put together a PDF on short-term rental regulations that I'd be happy to share if you reach out to me. I don't update this every day, but I definitely periodically will go back and update this document because the rules and regulations can change. I mean, they're not changing daily, but for those that don't have regulations in place, there can be some nuances. Now, I'm not only a real estate agent who specializes in working with investors, but I'm also someone that creates educational content to help people understand more about investing in real estate. So why listen to me? Well, I'm definitely not perfect, but over time, I've been able to grow my knowledge of real estate and real estate investing. I've been investing in real estate for over the past 17 years. And as a result of doing that, I was able to leave the W-2 world by investing in both long-term and short-term rentals. Now, because of the cash flow from those rental properties, I was able to become financially free from the W-2 world. And now I focus on my passion, which is real estate. And I continue to invest in real estate. I continue to create content around investing in real estate. And I work with both home buyers as well as investors to make sure that they're able to learn from my experiences and purchase a solid real estate investment that can help to build their wealth and help them achieve their financial goals. So I don't just talk about this real estate investing thing, I actually do it myself. And I was pretty surprised actually when I got into the agent side of things, how many real estate agents don't own rental properties. In fact, how many don't even own real estate themselves. Not that you have to necessarily own it to help somebody purchase it, but I personally feel like it helps to have been in your client's shoes and to be able to offer tips and tricks and learnings, to be honest, because the reality is we should all be constantly learning. And to be able to share that with my clients, I think that's a value that I add to the experience. All right, so let's get into the foothills and talk about what areas of the foothills I think are the best for a short-term rental property. Now, when it comes to the foothills, we're generally talking about county regulations. So county regulations in places that are unincorporated, places like Evergreen, Conifer, etc. Okay, there are some places that have city regulations like the town of Idaho Springs. However, these regulations tend to be pretty strict, and so oftentimes we're trying to look for places outside of the city. It could be close to the city, but outside of the city where they're regulated by the county, because those regulations tend to be a little more lenient with regards to short-term rental regulations. All right, so 3 counties that I recommend in the foothills or very close to the foothills are Jefferson County, Clear Creek County, and Park County. Now, when we think of these counties, some prime locations would be Evergreen, Conifer, Pine, Bailey, and Idaho Springs, but not within the city limits. Now, when we think about the foothills, that's what most people picture and envision when they think about Colorado, right? So like those people that don't live in Colorado, when they come here or they think about coming to Colorado, they don't necessarily think about the Front Range area there with you know, the kind of the flat topography. They think about the foothills and beyond, right? They think about the mountains and the open spaces. And so the foothills are a great place not only to live, I actually personally live in the foothills, but they're also a great place to have a short-term rental because they give that picturesque Colorado feel, but they also have close proximity to everything that the Front Range has to offer. Okay, the first place I want to talk about is Jefferson County. Now, Jefferson County definitely allows short-term rentals. They, of course, like any location, have their checklist of items of things that you need to achieve in order to be approved for a short-term rental license. Again, every area is going to have their own checklist of items. This is pretty standard. The one key hurdle and or thing you need to look for with regards to short-term rentals in Jefferson County is that you have to have a property that is at least 1 acre or larger. That's the key thing you need to think about with Jefferson County, okay? The great thing about Jefferson County is that it's not only in the foothills, it also expands down into the Front Range. And so when you think about access, it offers the optimal access to everything that the mountains have to offer, but also everything that the Front Range has to offer as well. Folks that invest in Jefferson County also tend to like the fact that it's pretty close to Red Rocks because Red Rocks happens to be within Jefferson County. Okay, number 2, let's talk about Clear Creek County. This is another great place to invest from a short-term rental perspective, especially in and around the town of Idaho Springs, considering all of the development that is happening there. Now, I'm not going to go over the development in this video, but if you want to know what I'm talking about, then feel free to check out my channel, where I've got a couple other videos around the development that's happening and all the exciting things that are happening in the town of Idaho Springs. Now, within Clear Creek County, if the property is your primary residence, then it's a pretty straightforward application and process. However, if you're looking to short-term rent the property solely as an investment property, then there definitely is an application process. In fact, right now, as of this recording, there is also a wait list within Clear Creek County. However, I think there's a lot of opportunity here in this area, and I think it's definitely worth the wait. With regards to the wait list and what dictates that, now, the county has a cap on the number of short-term rentals that they are allowed to offer permits for within county limits. And this is based off of 4.5% of the entire residential home population within the county. So as more homes are built, this number changes. Also, as there's turnover in properties that currently have short-term rental license and those individuals decide not to continue short-term rent their property, those licenses become available. And as of this recording, the wait list is around 6 months, which when you think about getting a property and getting it dialed in the way that you want it, is really not that long to wait. But again, you should always check with the county to see where things are at when you're looking to purchase a property so that you have a good knowledge of what you're looking to expect. All right, the third location is Park County. Now, Park County has a pretty straightforward process of applying for short-term rentals. Of course, just like the other areas, they have their checklist of things, but again, it's pretty straightforward. With that said, if you're looking to invest in a short-term rental in Park County, I would do it sooner than later. And the reason I say that is because you want to get grandfathered in. The reality is there have been some conversations around Park County creating some more restrictive regulations. However, in those conversations, they definitely have brought up the fact that they would look to grandfather those individuals that are already running short-term rentals in regardless of the new regulations. And so this is actually a great opportunity, especially for those, again, looking to invest here, because these new regulations, if and when they do come, would create less competition for you being an established short-term rental in the county. Okay, so as with most regulations, they can be subject to change, and this is true not only in the counties that I've spoken about here, but also anywhere in the country. What I have found though is that generally counties, towns, cities, etc., that have already taken the time to establish regulations tend to be safe places to invest in general because they've put thought to it and they have these parameters. And once you know the parameters, you can then work within those parameters. Sometimes it can be difficult when you invest in an area and then they decide to then implement regulations because they can then potentially hurt your short-term rental. An example of this would be Summit County, which is why I definitely recommend to make sure you do your due diligence. This is why I'm creating this video, to help give you as much information as possible, and also why I create and update my short-term rental regulations guideline, because the reality is these things can change. However, again, while it's not 100% set in stone, those areas that tend to already have established regulations tend to be a little bit safer than those areas that are more like the Wild West and allow anything right now, because eventually at some point in time there's a high likelihood that they're going to create regulations, and those regulations may or may not be in your favor. Okay, so let's talk about a couple quick considerations if you're looking to purchase a short-term rental. The first is that HOAs are not your friend. And this is nothing really against HOAs, they have their purpose, but the reality is they can change their rules and regulations at any time, and while the HOA might be friendly towards short-term rentals today, that can always change and you simply don't have any control over this. The next thing you need to think about is how are you going to differentiate yourself from the competition? So jump online, jump onto Airbnb and look at your competitive set within the area that you're looking to purchase. All right, how are you going to differentiate yourself? You can definitely do this from a design perspective, making sure that your property stands out and is attractive to guests, right? You can even theme it if you want. You don't have to theme it, but this can work in some locations. You also need to think about other aspects of differentiation. So for example, the size of your property. If you look at the competitive set and everyone in the competitive set is a smaller property, well then maybe you should go with a larger property. And vice versa. If everything is a larger property, maybe there's some opportunity there to create a really cool, smaller property. So look at what people are doing out there and find ways to differentiate yourself so that you stand out from the crowd as they're scrolling through Airbnb. Typically, they're doing this on their phone. And so it's something that I call being thumb stoppable, right? You want them to be scrolling through and all of a sudden, boom, stop on your property because you stand out in a way that's eye-catching. And so let's pause on eye-catching for a second as well. This comes down to having high quality and professional photography. So never take photos yourself unless you are a professional photographer, right? So pictures from your phone just don't cut it. You want to make sure that you have high quality images of your property because you're trying to get somebody to envision staying in that property, right? They're doing this via a website, typically on their phone, typically on Airbnb and Vrbo, and you want them to be able to not only be attracted to the property, but envision themselves spending time in your property, and specifically in your property versus the competition. The next thing you want to do is run your numbers. You want to have a really good idea of the gross revenue and feel comfortable that you can achieve that number, okay? And so you want to run your numbers. And so what are some sources from a data perspective to be able to do this? Well, there's a bunch of resources out there. First and foremost, you could do it more manually and jump on a site like Airbnb and look at the competition. Look at properties of a similar size and design and style, right? So what are some of the price points that you're looking to achieve? Look at those properties and see the average nightly rate that they're charging during various times of the year. Also look at their occupancy to then manually calculate what their gross revenue potential would be. Another option would be to go to some websites that basically do this for you. One is AirDNA, and you can pay for a plan there as well too to really dig into the data and see what a similar property could pull in from a gross rental perspective. A free option also would be Raboo.com. This is a website that does something similar to AirDNA. You simply on this website type in the address of the property as well as the number of bedrooms, and they will populate the gross rental revenue. I will say that I have been impressed by the quality of Raboo's data. I have properties across the country, and when I look at my actual revenue numbers compared to what they produce in their algorithm, it's pretty accurate. Another option is to reach out to a local property manager, and I recommend doing this to a lot of folks, especially folks that aren't going to manage a property themselves, and you definitely want to obviously be reaching out to a local property manager to not only understand the gross rental revenue projections that they feel could be obtained with a property that you're looking to purchase, but also to understand what their terms are, what they charge, what's included in their fees as well. Now, I always recommend to my clients they use at least 2 of these resources, definitely as many as possible, so that you can really triangulate and feel good about the gross rental potential of the property that you're looking at. Now, of course, there's no obligation, but for those of you that choose to use me as your agent, I'm happy to help with the analysis along the way. All right, that's it for today. So for those of you that are looking to purchase a short-term rental in this area, make sure that you're working with an expert. You definitely want to have somebody that has done this before and can help guide you along in the process. If you like this video and content just like it, then please give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel for more content just like this. All right, that's it for today. If you want to check out my front range video, then I'll definitely link to that at the end of this video, and we'll see you next time.